Let me tell you something right now. Getting rich is super easy.
Yeah, I said it.
But the moment I said it, somebody's mind just went, ain't no way, Myron. You don't know my situation. And that's exactly why it's hard for you. Because your belief system is fighting your blessing system. The truth is, the reason rich people get richer is not because they're smarter. It's because they've learned the laws of wealth. And laws don't care who you are. They care if you obey them. Before wealth ever shows up in your bank account, it has to be birthed in your belief system. That's the part most people miss. They're chasing results without repairing the root. You can't plant the seed of poverty in your mind and expect the fruit of prosperity in your life. Everything you have right now is a reflection of how you think about yourself, your value, and what's possible for you. The external world will always mirror the internal world, and until you learn to think like a rich person, you'll keep living like a poor one, no matter how much money you touch. The world doesn't pay you for how hard you work, it pays you for how high you think. The difference between rich people and broke people isn't intelligence, education, or luck, it's mindset. The wealthy have trained their thoughts to attract abundance, while the poor have been conditioned to fear it. One sees opportunity, the other sees obstacles. One says, I can. The other says, I can't. And every time you say, I can't, you make a down payment on the life you don't want. It's not the economy keeping you broke. It's your own internal thermostat of belief. You'll never rise higher than the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. Here's the truth that shocks most people. Money doesn't change your mindset. Mindset changes your money. That's why lottery winners lose millions in months. They change their bank balance, but not their belief balance. You can't put new money into an old mindset and expect it to multiply. The subconscious mind is like soil. It doesn't care what you plant. It just grows whatever seed you give it. If you keep planting thoughts of lack, limitation, and fear, your life will harvest exactly that. But when you start planting thoughts of abundance, creativity, and purpose, the harvest shifts automatically. Let me hit you with a hook. Poverty is not the absence of money, it's the absence of purpose. When you know who you are and what you were created for, you begin to see money as a tool, not a trap. Wealth isn't about material possessions, it's about mental position. When you get your mind in the right position, resources will start flowing toward you instead of away from you. You begin to attract opportunities, partnerships, and ideas that align with your vision because your frequency changes. You move from scarcity energy to prosperity energy. Think about this. Every billionaire started with a thought. Every breakthrough began with a belief. Every great invention, every business empire, every movement that changed the world started in someone's imagination. You've got that same creative power inside of you, but most people have used their imagination to visualize struggle instead of success. They rehearse failure in their minds until it becomes their reality. What if you started imagining wealth as vividly as you imagine worry? What if you gave your faith the same energy you've been giving your fear? You have to train your mind like a muscle. Feed it with success principles, surround it with visionaries, and discipline it to reject negativity. Don't let your mind become a landfill for other people's limitations. Every time someone says, that's impossible, remind yourself that impossible is just a word lazy thinkers use to excuse average results. The person who changes their mind, changes their money, changes their momentum, and changes their entire meaning in life. So the first step to getting rich is not doing something different. It's thinking different. You've got to start seeing yourself as the kind of person who deserves abundance. You've got to expect favor, expect increase, expect overflow. Stop talking about surviving and start declaring that you are designed for thriving. Because once your mindset catches up to your potential, your money has no choice but to follow. Wealth doesn't start with money, it starts with mentality. The mind is the factory, and the world is just the delivery system. Most people have been programmed to believe that if they just work harder, they'll eventually get rich. They think if they grind long enough, something magical will happen. But here's the truth that flips that entire idea on its head. Hard work alone doesn't make you rich. Alignment does. You can swing your hammer all day, but if you're hitting the wrong wall, you're just getting tired, not transformed. Working harder only multiplies your mistakes if you're operating from the wrong mindset. The key isn't to work harder, it's to work higher. To rise above hustle and start operating from wisdom, strategy, and divine purpose. The world has glorified exhaustion, but exhaustion is not a badge of honor. It's a sign of misdirection. Too many people are chasing productivity instead of pursuing purpose. They're busy, but they're not effective. They're moving fast, but in circles. When you start to work from a higher level of thinking, you realize it's not about clocking more hours. It's about maximizing the hour you have. It's not about effort. It's about efficacy. 1 hour of focused, faith-fueled work in your purpose is worth more than 100 hours of blind hustle in your comfort zone. Here's the hook. Hard work creates income, but higher work creates impact, and impact is what multiplies income. That's the divine equation. When you shift from chasing paychecks to chasing purpose, your paychecks start chasing you. You stop trading time for money and start trading value for wealth. Every wealthy person you admire didn't get there because they worked the hardest. They got there because they worked the smartest. They understood how to turn knowledge into leverage, effort into efficiency, and vision into value. Think about it. 2 people can do the same job for the same number of hours, but one becomes wealthy while the other stays stuck. Why? Because one works from a higher consciousness. One understands systems, automation, relationships, and influence, things that multiply effort. The other one only understands labor. The wealthy operate by principles, the poor operate by pressure. Wealthy people create environments where their ideas work harder than their bodies. They use their creativity to create cash flow. They use their imagination to build innovation. That's what it means to work higher. You've got to ask yourself, am I working for money, or is money working for me? Because if all you ever do is work for money, you'll never have enough of it. But when you start building systems, assets, and streams that work for you, you step into freedom. That's when you stop surviving and start succeeding. The higher level of work is when you operate in your calling, when what you do is not just labor, but a legacy. When your work is an act of worship, not a weight of worry. Most people spend their lives trying to make a living instead of designing a life. They think they need another job when what they really need is another level. You don't need to do more, you need to become more. When your capacity increases, your compensation follows. You attract wealth not because you're busy, but because you're valuable. Stop asking, how much can I make? And start asking, how much can I multiply? Because the minute you shift from working harder to working higher, everything changes. Here's another truth. God never designed you to grind endlessly. He designed you to grow strategically. The grind mindset glorifies exhaustion, but the growth mindset glorifies expansion. One burns out, the other builds up. One chases results, the other creates them. So start aligning your actions with your assignment. Start seeing your work as a mission, not just a means to survive. Because when you elevate your work to a place of purpose, your results will elevate to a place of power. Stop measuring success by sweat and start measuring it by significance. The most powerful thing you can do is move from working with your hands to working with your head, and then from working with your head to working with your heart. That's where real prosperity flows from. The next level is not about doing more, it's about becoming more aware, more strategic, and more intentional. That's how you stop living in grind mode and start living in grace mode, where your results flow instead of fight. Because when you work higher, heaven works with you. Leverage is the secret language of the wealthy, and once you learn to speak it fluently, everything about your financial reality begins to change. Most people are trapped in a cycle of trading time for money, and that's the most expensive trade you can ever make. Time is the only resource you can't reproduce. Once it's gone forever. Wealthy people understand that money is abundant, but time is sacred. They don't spend time, they invest it. And when you start investing your time in things that multiply, you move from being a laborer to becoming a leader, from working in your business to building something that works without you. That's the power of leverage. The moment you stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a wealth creator, leverage becomes your best friend. You begin to realize that the world doesn't reward effort, it rewards effectiveness. You can hustle from sunrise to sunset, but if everything depends on you, you'll always be one sickness, one setback, or one burnout away from being broke. Leverage is how you build freedom. It's how you make your money work even when you're sleeping. When you learn to multiply effort through people, processes, and platforms, you step into a completely different level of abundance. Here's the hook. Poor people use energy, rich people use systems. Poor people think in terms of labor, rich people think in terms of leverage. The one who knows how to multiply wins every single time. Multiplication is not a financial principle, it's a spiritual one. God never said, be fruitful and add. He said, be fruitful and multiply. That means multiplication is not optional. It's the original design for increase. When you operate in multiplication, you're not defying divine order. You're fulfilling it. You're walking in the same creative power that God used to form the universe. Leverage is not manipulation, it's multiplication through wisdom. It's using tools, technology, and teamwork to expand your capacity. Think about this, a lever is a simple tool that allows you to move something heavier than you could ever lift alone. The same is true in life. Leverage allows you to move mountains that hard work alone could never budge. It lets you do more with less effort because you're using divine design instead of human strain. The wealthiest people don't do everything themselves. They do what only they can do and delegate the rest to systems and people who can do it better. That's wisdom, not laziness. Leverage your time by creating systems that automate what you once had to manage manually. Leverage your talent by teaching others how to do what you do so your impact multiplies even when you're not in the room. Leverage your tools, technology, media, digital assets to reach more people than your physical presence ever could. And most importantly, leverage your truth, the message, mission, or mastery that's uniquely yours. When you package your purpose, you turn your life's lessons into someone else's liberation. And that's when the money flows with ease. Most people are afraid to let go of control, and that's why they stay small. They think doing it all means keeping it all. But holding everything keeps you from holding anything at the next level. Leverage requires trust, trust in people, trust in principles, and trust in the process. You can't multiply what you micromanage. The more you try to control everything, the more you limit what God can do through you. But when you release control and embrace collaboration, you open the door to exponential growth. Leverage also means letting your money work for you instead of you working for money. Every dollar you earn can become an employee that never sleeps if you put it in the right place. Investing, creating assets, building ownership. That's how you turn income into independence. You can't get wealthy by saving. You get wealthy by circulating money with intention and strategy. Money is like blood. It has to keep flowing or it stagnates. Leverage keeps it alive, active, and abundant. The ones who win in life are not the ones who work the hardest, but the ones who work the smartest. They create leverage through people, purpose, and principles. They don't chase opportunities. They create systems that attract them. When you embrace leverage, you stop living paycheck to paycheck and start living from overflow to overflow. Because when you multiply your impact, your income follows automatically. That's not luck, that's leverage in action. Your words are not just sounds, they are seeds. Every time you open your mouth, you are planting the future you're going to live in. The problem is, most people are speaking their fears instead of their faith. They describe what they see instead of declaring what they seek. And then they wonder why their life keeps repeating the same cycles of lack and limitation. You cannot speak failure all week and expect to live in victory on Friday. The universe was created through words, and you are made in the image of the Creator. That means your words carry the same creative power. What you say will either build your destiny or bury your potential. Here's the hook. Your mouth is the remote control for your reality. You don't get what you want, you get what you say. Every declaration you make sets things in motion. When you say, I'm broke, you're authorizing lack to live in your life. When you say, it's too hard, you're signing a permission slip for struggle. But when you begin to speak life, when you start saying, I'm favored, I'm chosen, I'm increasing, I'm capable, I'm wealthy, you're aligning your words with your worth. You are commanding creation to cooperate with your confession. The power of speech is not just spiritual, it's scientific. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between truth and a lie. It just believes whatever you repeat. That's why affirmations are not some empty motivational trick. They're spiritual warfare. When you change your language, you begin to reprogram your belief system. And when your beliefs shift, your behaviors follow. Speak abundance long enough, and your brain starts searching for ways to make it real. Speak defeat long enough, and it will find ways to prove you right. You've got to understand that what comes out of your mouth is shaping what comes into your life. The wealthiest people speak from a place of vision, not from their current condition. They might not have the millions yet, but they talk like it's already done. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. The poor wait to see it before they say it, but the rich say it until they see it. Faith-filled language attracts faith-filled results. You can't walk in prosperity while speaking poverty. Here's a truth that'll shake you. Most people cancel their blessings with their own conversations. They pray for opportunity, but speak fear into existence. They ask God for increase and then say, I don't think I can handle it. You can't receive with your heart what your mouth keeps rejecting. If you say, I can't afford it, your mind shuts down the possibility of creativity. But if you say, how can I afford it? Your brain begins to open doors you didn't even know existed. Your words activate solutions or shut them off completely. That's why you have to guard your language like your life depends on it, because it does. Don't entertain gossip. Don't magnify problems. And don't speak lack even as a joke. Every word carries weight. The more intentional you are with your speech, the more powerful your life becomes. Say what you want to see, not what you feel in the moment. Feelings fluctuate, but truth stays firm. When you choose words that agree with your destiny instead of your doubt, your life starts to transform faster than you can imagine. If you want to elevate your life, elevate your language. Speak the kind of words that match the future you're building, not the past you've been through. You can't step into a wealthy life while your vocabulary still serves struggle. Start talking like a millionaire in training. Start declaring that money flows easily, opportunities chase you, and favor finds you everywhere you go. When you consistently speak life, your reality begins to obey your voice. So stop speaking death over your dreams. Stop confessing what you don't want and start commanding what you do. Speak as if it's already done, because in the spiritual realm, it is. Every time you speak faith into your situation, you give heaven permission to manifest it on earth. Words are not empty. They're containers of power. Fill them with purpose. Fill them with prosperity. Fill them with praise. Because when your language lines up with your vision, your life will line up with your victory. Money doesn't chase people who want it. It chases people who have become valuable enough to attract it. Wealth is not something you pursue, it's something you become. The reason most people stay broke is because they spend all their energy trying to get money instead of growing into the kind of person who deserves it. You can't attract abundance while operating from scarcity. You can't magnetize wealth while radiating worry. The moment you shift from chasing to becoming, everything about your financial reality begins to change. The goal is not to get rich. It's to become rich in mindset, in discipline, in character, and in contribution. When you evolve, your income evolves with you. Here's the hook. Money is a mirror. It doesn't show you who you want to be. It reflects who you already are. If you lack self-worth, money won't fix it. It'll amplify it. If you're lazy, insecure, or inconsistent, money will magnify that chaos. But if you are disciplined, intentional, and purpose-driven, money will multiply your impact. That's why chasing money is dangerous. It makes you a slave to something you don't understand. But when you become valuable, when you master your craft, when you embody excellence, money starts chasing you because value is irresistible. The marketplace is not biased. It's simply responsive. It rewards solutions, not excuses. The wealthiest people didn't get there by luck or chance. They became solution providers. They found a way to make life better for someone else. That's the secret to becoming wealthy. Serve more, solve more, and scale your impact. People will pay you to solve their problems, and the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the paycheck that follows. Stop asking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I add more value? The moment you make that shift, money will begin showing up in your life almost effortlessly, because you're now operating by the law of exchange, not the emotion of need. Becoming wealth is about identity. You can't walk like royalty while thinking like a renter. You can't build an empire with a survival mindset. You have to stop identifying as the struggler and start identifying as the solution. When you see yourself as the answer, the world begins to treat you like one. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. You're not boasting, you're believing. You were created with a gift that's designed to create wealth. But that gift only activates when you see yourself as worthy of using it. Stop hiding behind fear and step into the role of a creator, not a consumer. Most people spend their lives asking life to give them something they haven't become ready to receive. They say they want millions, but they still think like thousands. They want opportunities, but they're not prepared for responsibility. Money flows toward maturity, not mediocrity. When you become disciplined in your habits, consistent in your actions, and excellent in your attitude, you start radiating a frequency that attracts prosperity. You stop looking for quick wins and start building lasting wealth. You stop playing the short game and start designing the long game. Becoming wealthy is not just about what you do, it's about how you think, how you feel, and how you show up. The universe responds to confidence, clarity, and conviction. When you walk in purpose, when you believe in your mission, when you operate from faith instead of fear, money recognizes you. It senses your alignment. It starts showing up through new opportunities, new connections, and unexpected breakthroughs. That's not luck, it's law. You don't have to chase the bag when you become the bag. You don't have to force success when you're in harmony with your assignment. The people who live in overflow aren't hustling for attention. They're harvesting the rewards of becoming irreplaceable. So instead of asking how to get rich, ask how to grow. Because wealth doesn't flow to who you pretend to be, it flows to who you truly become. When you build yourself, you build your fortune. When you master your value, money will line up to serve your vision. You don't need to chase wealth. Just become so excellent that it can't ignore you. Faith is the fuel that ignites the engine of success, but action is the engine that moves it forward. Too many people have faith sitting in park. They believe with passion, but never press the gas. They pray for increase, but never plant the seed. They talk about what they're believing for, but never take the step that proves it. Faith that doesn't move is just imagination. You can have all the belief in the world, but if you never act on it, you're just daydreaming with divine vocabulary. Faith is not about waiting for a miracle. It's about becoming the miracle in motion. It's about acting like it's already yours, even when your circumstances say otherwise. Here's the hook. God doesn't bless intentions, He blesses execution. The Bible doesn't say, without faith, it's impossible to imagine God. It says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. Faith pleases Him because faith proves that you trust Him. When you move before you see the result, you're saying, God, I believe in your promise more than